Raider Nation, what's going on? I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up here on today's show, I got 5 players that the Las Vegas Raiders could draft at pick 13. That would be a huge surprise to a lot of people out there. And the reason why that I'm going to make this show is because, let's face it, I've covered this team for a long time. Y'all have watched the Raiders for a long time. And when I think about just the last 8 picks, right, just the last drafts that we've had going back to 2019, I have made so many shows around the Raiders should take these players XYZ here in round 1. Yeah, I get it. Gruden and Mayock. Yeah, I get it. McDaniels and Ziegler. We've got a brand new regime with Telesco and AP. But, I feel like it's always been a surprise in first round. So what I'm going to try to do here is trying to paint a picture of who are some players that we don't really talk about that could still be selected at pick 13, because these past Raiders first round picks, the only good one in here, and sure, the Davante Adams trade, obviously that was great. Josh Jacobs was the only one, and realistically, the only pick. I still think Tyree Wilson can turn out to be a good player, and if you watch this show a lot, you'll know that I like him. Chugs really thinks that he's going to have a breakout year this upcoming season, but it should not surprise you that the Raiders have surprised us before. And the other part of this show is this. When I ask who are the Raiders going to take at 13, I would say if I could make my own betting odds, right? If I could make my own betting odds of who I think the Las Vegas Raiders are going to pick, or if I were to ask 100 Raider fans, who are the Raiders going to take at 13, I would say that 95% of people would pick probably one of these 5 players right here. Is that a fair thing to assume? Terrion Arnold, Taliese Fuaga, J.C. Latham, Quinyon Mitchell, and then Michael Penix Jr. I'm talking only at pick 13, not what they could potentially do in round 1. Pick 13, these are the 5 names that you hear time and time again. So here's the thing. Those 5 players are not going to be featured here in this show. I do want to make sure that you join us for our live draft coverage, because I got a lot of fun things on tap for you. I've got a lot of fun raffle prizes, got a lot of huge giveaways that we're going to be doing. And since we're live for the entire thing, every single pick, all 7 rounds, Chugs and I want you all to hang out with us. We've done this draft a lot. We enjoy doing it, and I want you to be able to tune in to the Raiders Report. Help us be the most watched Raiders live stream for the 2024 NFL Draft. So here we go. Surprise Raiders picks at number 13, and I'm going to go from 5 and work my way down to 1. And the way that I'm doing it is 5 is the least surprising. 1 would be the most surprising. So here we go. Coming in here at number 5, Troy Fautanu, the offensive lineman from Washington. And the reason why that I'm going to put him on this list is because I've recently watched his tape over again, and dude reminds me of Rashawn Slater. Now, Slater doesn't have as long of arms. Fautanu has much longer arms, but Telesco drafted Rashawn Slater in round 1. So because he already has that connection, I do wonder if this could be something else. He crushes people in the pass game and in the run game. Super athletic, and it shows that his ability to get up to that next level. The reason why I don't know if this pick makes sense for the Raiders is because they have Kolton Miller. And if you end up taking Fautanu here at number 13, I think that your hope is that he can play on that left side, because I don't really think that you're going to move him to the right side. So if they end up going this route, that means to me that Kolton Miller said, hey, I am open to the idea of playing on that right side. I'll also say I don't know if you're going to take him here and put him at left guard, considering that, I'm not saying Whitehair is your guy, but you also have Dylan Parham. He also is a member close to Henderson, Nevada, right? So he's already been there. The Raiders don't have to report if you have a top 30 visit with him, because you're allowed to have as many local visits as you want, and you don't even have to say them. We know the top 30 visits, but in the 15 games played, 88.2 PFF grade, 3 sacks allowed at 6'4", 320 pounds. Troy Fautanu makes this list. Let's go to number 4 here. It's Amarius Mims, offensive tackle from Georgia. And I'm not saying that offensive tackle is not a big need. I'm not saying that I'd be angry if the Raiders took Amarius Mims here. However, I do think that if you asked Raider fans, asked me in general, hey, Mitch, the Raiders end up taking an offensive tackle at pick 13. If that pick wasn't if it wasn't a Taliese Fuaga or a J.C. Latham, I do think that it would catch some people by surprise. He's got that outstanding combination of size, length, and athletic ability. He does have very limited experience, just 8 career college starts. But you know what? Dude's got upside, and he's got sky-high upside. He does still need some work on that line. And if You put him in a competitive battle against the Thayer Munford, and you let him earn that right tackle spot at 6'7", 340 pounds. Like, what if this is how good he is based on 8 career starts? What if we haven't even tapped into his potential yet, and he turns out to be this unbelievable offensive tackle prospect? I will say, if the Silver and Black had Carmen Brasillo, I'd feel a little bit better about it compared to a brand new offensive line coach in a James Craig. But Amarius Mims, he's definitely got some upside, and he's number 4 here on my list. Coming up, I got 3 more surprising picks at pick number 13, and I think I'm going to catch a lot of people off guard with 1 and 2. Maybe not so much 3, but 1 and 2, I'm going to freak some people out here. Also, you might be freaked out that football season is over, but don't panic. You can still have a lot of fun with our sponsor, Prize Picks, and shout out to them for sponsoring the Raiders Report. And they've got specials for new and returning users alike. Just go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and MLB entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types will make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. If you want to see my picks for season long, these are the ones I'm rolling with here. Chris Jones, give me the less on 11.75 sacks for the season. Chris Stroud. CJ Stroud, give me the more on 26.5. And then Bryce Young, 18.5. I took the more on that as well. To me, these are absolute locks. And if you want to put a little bit of extra money in your pocket, go to prizepicks.com/CLNX because Prize Picks is simple. You pick more than, you pick less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already. PrizePicks.com/CLNS and get a first-time deposit match of $100. PrizePicks.com/CLNX. Jugs, put that link for you guys down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Let's go to number 3 here on my surprise pick rankings. It's Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma. I know that Sanjeet has really started to say that Guyton's one of his favorite offensive tackles. I believe he has him ranked number 2, and I saw Sanjeet say that, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to look at the tape because I do trust what he has to say about offensive linemen. I will also say that the reason why I'm intrigued by this pick is because he did have such a good Senior Bowl, and I know the Raiders really take that into a consideration. He's got length. His feet and body control traits are why I do think he's so great at the pass pro. He has battled some injuries in college, and if you're somebody that's not worried about the injury history, then maybe Guyton is a little bit higher up on your list. I personally see Guyton as the 4th best offensive tackle in this year's class. He does play with that high center of gravity, which that makes me nervous. If I see a tackle that I believe needs to put on more weight at 6'7", needs to put on more strength as well, that muscle mass, and plays with that high level of center of gravity, it does. It makes me nervous. I'll also admit, though, then his name right now is escaping me. There was another offensive tackle from Oklahoma, had really long arms, that recently got drafted, and I was like, I don't know if he's going to end up working out. Ended up working out. Was it Orlando Brown? Maybe it was Orlando Brown. I don't know. I feel like that I wouldn't have said that, but is what it is. Anyway, with Guyton, though, I do think he's a good player, but again, this is based on if you were to tell me the Raiders took a offensive tackle at pick number 13, I think a lot of people go other direction. Not Amarius Mims, not Tyler Guyton. However, let's now really get surprising out there. Let's go to number 2 on my list for surprise targets at 13. I'm going to go with tight end, Brock Bowers. Yeah, I know, tight end. It's not a need whatsoever. But if you do based on best player available, there is a chance to me that Bowers is the best player available at number 13 because he is a top 10 prospect according to just basically anybody. He's the best tight end in this year's class, and it's really not close. On top of that, Luke Getsy does like to use tight ends in his offense. And if you're the Silver and Black and you go, well, I don't love any of the receivers that I could potentially get a little bit later on, and we do want to add another pass catcher, somebody else that we can build this offense around. Maybe it just makes more sense to put Brock Bowers next to Michael Mayer, next to Davante Adams, Jacoby Myers, and that's a better overall skill set of skill possession players. I'll also say that this regime didn't draft Michael Mayer. I love me some Mayer. I think he's going to be a hell of a player, but I also do not know if Getsy likes him as much. What if Getsy does really like Bowers? What if our brand new tight end, what if all of these coaches do like Bowers more than Michael Mayer? And again, you're not going to take Mayer off the field. This would be more based on I want to run more 2 tight end sets which Getsy did use a lot of tight ends last season. He's 6'4", he's 240 pounds, and remember, it is surprise targets at number 13. I think we can all agree Brock Bowers is a hell of a football player. Might be the best player available at 13, but it'd be a weird fit, and it definitely would be a huge, huge surprise. Before I get into number one of who do you think the Raiders could pick at 13, that would be a surprise. And I know this. Last year before the NFL draft, the odds for the Raiders to take an edge rusher were plus 1,000, okay? Plus 1,000. Like, it was the fifth highest odds. There were other positions, but I can remember edge was the fifth highest odds, and the Raiders ended up going with Tyree Wilson. Alex Leatherwood was a surprise. Clelin Ferrell, surprise. Damon Arnette, Henry Ruggs, they were all surprises. The Raiders have done it before. Hopefully they don't do it again. Hopefully we get a good pick. So let me know down below. Number one would be the most surprising, and he's a hell of a football player, and I don't think anybody's going to debate that. It is Latu, the edge from UCLA. And the reason why he ends up making this list is because edge is another position that I don't really view as being a big-time major need. However, if the Raiders are worried that they're not going to be able to bring back Malcolm Kuntz, maybe you already try to go out and get a cheaper player that you can rely on going forward. This regime didn't draft Tyree Wilson, and what happens if they don't like Tyree and they really like Latu? On top of that, Max Crosby freaking loves this guy and has been working with him in the offseason. I mean, on Monday, Max literally said that, like, he wants dog players like a Braden Fisk and like a Latu. I mean, Latu at the NFL Combine told our chat sports team that he's going to be working with Crosby this offseason. And if you know Crosby has much say as what he does with Antonio Pierce, with Tom Telesco, he might be like, hey, I know it's not a big need now, but this is one of those dudes that can change our locker room. Hell of a football player at 6'5", and he just continues to show that he's getting better and better and better. I think he could end up being one of the better edge rushers from this year's class, could end up being one of the better edge rushers in the NFL. 13 sacks with the Bruins last season. But let's be real. If you take Latu at 13 for the Silver and Black, he's a great player. But it would be a massive, and I mean massive surprise for this organization. So one more time here. Here are my surprise pick rankings for the Las Vegas Raiders at 13. Not that I don't want any of these players to be picked, because I really don't. I'd rather them go with the guys that we kind of started the show off talking about. But at the same time, they've done it before. And I'm hoping that it doesn't happen again. However, here's the show that I did that I probably should have done in years past. I'm hoping now that I jinxed it and we end up getting the guys that we want at pick 13.